Google is not there yet. I'm assuming it might be working on it something internally.
We might not know.
We might not know. But there are solutions which are there for creative, but not to the level wherein just give a prompt and it'll automatically create a video for you.
Right.
But I'm sure it might be working on something internally, that is for sure. And I'm hoping that something of that sort will come in, but we are not there yet.
Understood. Okay, so Karthik, my next question to you is, we have addressed the setup, optimizations, looking at the data, insights, creatives, right? So if let's say a new advertiser or even the existing advertiser wants to adopt to fully automated offerings of Google Ads, what are those best practices that you would suggest to an advertiser to implement the ML that Google Ads has to offer?
See, Akshay, honestly, I'll be very clear here. There's n number of guides or guidelines for you to set up a campaign.
Right.
Follow that. You can follow any of it. It's not everything is bad until unless you make a blatant error. But the way I would suggest any advertiser or any of my advertisers, the discussion that I have with majority of my advertisers is always around after setup. It's not just how we set it up, it is after setup. Because see, how you set up is essentially the same way because the same settings are present. The way, the actions that we take after setting up a campaign would dictate its success or its failure. So that is where I would say, once you set up your campaign, obviously while setting up your campaign, there are certain best practices that need to be followed, ensuring right, for example, in automated campaigns, ensuring the right signal is being given to the campaign and the right messaging is being passed through the campaign. For example, PMAX, it works on audience signals. You ensure that the right audience signal is added to that.
Right.
If you don't use a right audience signal, if you use some random audience signal, it doesn't work well.
Okay.
And for UAC campaigns, the signal is essentially your app that is there, that is your App Store listing or your Play Store listing, and then you have your creatives, that is your ad copies that you give in your messaging. So you ensure that your messaging is proper and it is, for example, if you have a creative which is to do with, or your app is to do with something to do with games, and you're not mentioning anything about games, you're just mentioning about the celebrity who's endorsing it. It gives completely different messagings there. So you need to ensure that these messagings go hand in hand with your Play Store listing as well. So this is to do with setup. But after setting it up, right, you need to constantly monitor your campaigns. Is it serving? Is it giving you that performance? So even if it is giving you that performance, there's always that bit of optimization that you can always do. So you need to ensure that that is always being done. So that's all I would say. So setting up your campaign, you can do it easily, but after setup, the monitoring, the analysis and execution.
That requires expertise.
That requires expertise for sure.
Got it. So you talked about broad match, right?
Yeah.
That is evolving and I think is going to get adopted across the board.
Yep.
You talked about UAC, you talked about PMAX campaigns. Any other features which are maybe smaller ones in Google Ads ecosystem, but we've been using it pretty wide, and the implementation of those features are actually helping us bring that incrementality or helping us bring that efficiency or scale?
Got it. So one newer feature that comes into mind is obviously that's demand gen, wherein your discovery campaigns, which is essentially Google Discover inventory, right? The network, Discover network, that is your Gmail, your Discover feeds, and then your YouTube scrollable feed. So that essentially is now transforming into demand gen. So this is one solution which Google is working on towards. For your, see, this is essentially, as the name suggests, right? It is for demand generation. So it's all on Google owned and operated properties. So this is something which is working well for our lead-based clients, whoever wants to get more leads and all. So that is something which we are looking, or which we are working with Google to improve it further as well. And moreover, we are working on a lot of tech solutions, the tech implementation that I spoke about. We have, I think one of the ones that we are looking at is audience triggers for our UAC campaigns is something which we are working on as well, wherein we use events that is there in your Google GA4 and create triggers basis those events and pass it on to Google. That is Google Ads, and then what UAC does is it optimizes towards those individuals who are likely to trigger this event. So that is something which we're working on as well. And then we have as UAC audience signals, which we've already touched upon, And then we do have a lot to do with audience, that is your predictive audience that has been there, so which is Firebase, and which is working really well for some of our advertisers in terms of getting that users and engaging with those users as well. So these are all the different tools, and there's a lot more which is coming up in the future as well, which is to do with YouTube Shorts and all this, connected TV as well to an extent, but that is still a bit further away. But this is all to do with performance marketing, especially in Google Ads.
Got it. And when it comes to automation, I would say, are these features limited to certain verticals or certain type of business, or you have seen these features or these automated campaigns works across the board? And does your approach changes according to the vertical, or setup remains the same?
No, it changes. Obviously, if your setup remains the same for vertical, then you've not done a good job there. I'm sorry. That's how it is. So yeah, it keeps changing. So essentially, you cannot set up your campaigns, because you have businesses who cater to the mass, and then you have businesses who cater to a niche.
Right.
The way you set up a campaign that caters to a mass would be different to the way you set up a campaign that caters to the niche. So obviously, this is where your approach to each of them changes. But automation, the point that you asked, right? Would automation apply? Yes, it does to every industry, every vertical, because that's how we're pivoting. That's where we are pivoting towards as well. But it applies a bit more to certain type of industries.
Because I'll tell you, when it comes to e-commerce, right, there are a lot of data available, and that data sharing also happens very naturally or organically, you would say. Coming in from different data sources, integrating, and you're actually using that data to give that input to machine, get a better output. Might not be true for other verticals like banking sector, right? And hence I was asking whether these automated tools which works on data, if the data is limited, then how do you navigate?
Got it. Yeah, so the way we navigate essentially is, see, even if it is banking to be fair, right? Until and unless it's like a very, very niche, where you're catering to like the highest end users or to a particular set of users, we always use automation, because the number of signals. So for example, for e-com, you might pass 1 million signals back. But for banking, you can still pass thousands and 10,000s of signals, which is still a decent amount of signals that you're passing back. But the way you set it up would be, here there's a lot more subjective thinking that is involved for banking.
Okay.
But for e-com, there's a lot more objective thinking, where your decision making is very objective. Here, you're not getting ROAS, do something about it.
Okay.
Here, you're not getting leads. Or here, you're not getting something like, for example, you need to look at a lot of steps which are involved. So usually banking or any for lead based, there's a lot of steps that are involved after getting a lead.
Correct.
So you verify that whatever leads that you're getting, first of all, if it's failing in the first step, then your setup is completely incorrect.
Right.
If you're not failing in the first step, because one complaint that you usually keep hearing about PMAX in lead based clients is, it gets me a lot of junk leads.
Junk leads.
That is where your disposition comes into play.
Okay.
So you verify all the steps, the second step, the third step, the fourth step, or whatever it is. Is it properly, what is the conversion rates, and where is it getting affected?
Okay.
And if you're able to follow through, is it in the first step itself you're getting a lot of junk, then that means you need to change it and you need to optimize it to the second step. So once again, you change it. So this is where your approach changes. Here, it's very simple. Something is not working, you cut it off. Here, if something is not working, you look for the bottom funnel one that we speak about.
Okay, but data still lies.
Data still lies.
As long as you are providing the right data input to the machine, it will give you the proper output. We won Google Automation Challenge this year.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Talk more about that.
All right. Yeah, so basically what we've been participating with Google, and we've been where Google kind of set us like a challenge to ensure that the automation is adopted across, right? Because Google wants to push automation as well. And this was something which was done across agencies.
Okay.
And we've, at Dentsu, right? And then at Merkle Sokrati as well, we've been able to integrate all these automation levels, right? For example, enhanced conversion was one of them, and then OptiScore adoptions, wherein auto apply recommendations is one of them, and all of these adoptions, right? We were always at the forefront of it. Like for example, PMAX and all. We were the first testers. I think we might be one of the earliest adopters of PMAX, wherein we've given signals or we've shared data back to Google and asked them to modify certain things. And I'm not sure how much of it is taken, but whatever feedback we've passed on, we are seeing something that is coming back from Google as well, wherein visibility that we spoke of and all. So we've always been that early adopters of automation. So when this challenge came in, right, when this was set for us, I wouldn't want to brag, but I'm sure we won by a country mile in terms of adopting, because we've always ensured that automation is in place for our clients, and we've always been at the forefront of it as well. Because some of the clients, even if it is for a very tech savvy, or even if it is not a tech novice client, like tech novice industry, which relies more on branding, we ensured that automation solutions are in place for them as well. So that, so for example, ADH is one of the things that we speak of. So we've been able to pass
for our viewers, ADH is Ads Data Hub, which is a data clean room solutions offered by Google.
And then we've been one of the, we are at the forefront of it as well, right? So we've been able to get a lot of data using ADH, and then we've been able to use that data to target the right users even for our branding efforts.
Right.
So we've always been there. So that's where Google has identified us being some of the, like we use BBBs a lot, we use PMAX, and this is where we've been able to win it across agencies, and we were given that first award saying, hey, we won the Dentsu won the automation challenge for across campaigns and all. So this is, I think it's speaking specifically, I think this was for the performance media. So we've been able to win that as well.
Got it. And I remember that, we've collectively go and talk to product teams at Google side, give them feedbacks about these automated campaigns, these ML driven features, and we see those changes happening in the product itself. So that's a testament of our efforts. So now we know that, automated campaigns are the way forward. Do you think that, there will be challenges as well along with it? And if there are, and I'm sure there will be, what are those challenges and how do we solve for those issues?
Got it. So to answer your first point, right? See, we are premier partners of Google, and that comes with a lot of responsibility as well. And obviously we need to ensure that we keep Google on its toes saying, hey, something doesn't work, right? So like, for example, one thing that comes to mind, right? Audience signals for USC campaigns. When it started off in the alpha phase, we experimented with it with our couple of clients, and then we figured out, hey, there's something really wrong with this. And then we passed that message back to Google, and Google immediately stopped the rollout. And they paused it for some of our other advertisers as well. And they fixed that on the back end, and then they do it. So that is something which we work with Google or on the back end continuously. And to answer your second question, right, that is the way we see automation or the challenges that we see with automation. See, we've spoken about all the benefits that it has given us. Obviously, one thing that we always spoke of in all of this, right, was flowing the data back. Let's say if something happens with the data flow back, somewhere there was some connection that's broken, your campaign's gone for a toss. So that is where our, experience, I wouldn't even call it expertise, experience in terms of handling such situation comes into the picture, because we've seen these sort of things happen before. And we work with Google, and we have our agency reps who come to us saying this sort of solution or this sort of problem might come in, and for this problem, this is a solution. So we have ready-made solutions in place for, let's say, the enhanced conversion thing that we're speaking of. Let's say the enhanced conversion data flowing back is not happening. We have an immediate solution in place to ensure that there's another event which is like a fail-safe event. We always create this. That is the one which we use immediately to ensure that whatever data is not corrupted. And moreover that, we also use data exclusions if something goes wrong at the back end of the customer side or our client side. So that is always there. See, there's always risks when you move towards the new world, right? But that risks go hand in hand with the benefit as well. So that's where we are, and we as an agency come into the picture to mitigate those risks. And I can say that we are good at it.
So for PMAX, for UAC, which are fully automated, depends on machine learning, right? Have you observed any decision biases by algorithm?
So decision bias as in, obviously, let's say, here it depends on the vertical. So decision bias basis algorithm, let's say it's an e-com client. It usually tends to spend a bit more on the feed.
Fair enough.
than in creatives.
Right.
But if it is your lead-based clients, it tends to spend a bit more on search and Google-owned inventories. It wouldn't try to go a lot more on display. See, obviously that bias is something which we feed into the system by giving it conversion signals, audience signals, and the keywords that they need to target and all that, right? So, and that bias is always good. And if that bias is not there, that is something which we need to fix immediately as well. So that is always
this decision bias, right, is complementing, it's helping you,
Yes.
right, because it suits the need of the business.
Yeah.
But then has there been any instances where because of this, you were not getting expected outcome?
Yep, there were certain instances, like for example, when somebody or when some of our clients, they usually have steep targets and they scale up immediately. And this is specifically when I'm speaking about scaling up for lead-based clients. You are dealing with lead numbers which are in double digits, and now all of a sudden you expect something in 3 digits and 4 digits. Immediate scaling up on automated campaigns, it tends to yield a negative effect. So you need to scale up gradually there. So this is where we usually see that algorithm bias going or working against a favor, because when you suddenly give it certain amount of budget and certain amount of target to hit, it automatically goes and explores a lot of inventories, and when it goes there, obviously not all inventory is relevant inventory. That is where we see that. So sudden scale ups and sudden changes and sudden turnovers of something, we do see that bias not working in our favor.
Okay. And when you ask for a lot of data, right, another challenge is that comes probably to everybody, why you're asking that much data, right? Because there are privacy related challenges that brands will have. So how these automated solutions are solving for that challenge?
Yeah, so one of the points that I've touched based earlier, right, was around the hashing algorithms. So data flowing back, obviously, we are moving into cookieless world. So
right.
That's where GA4 has come into the picture.
Right.
So, and then there's this CRM connections that we speak about with the API integrations, enhanced conversion integrations and all. So that is another thing that we are working on as well. So obviously there will be privacy concerns from the clients, because you need to explain to them that whatever data that is being flowing back to Google Ads or that whatever data we are asking you to push it back is not actually PII, and it does not violate any of the privacy rules. Let it be the Californian or the GDPR.
Right.
So all of these are compatible with them. So, and obviously we will not, we as an agency as well, we will not accept anything which is PII. We won't even ask the client to share PII data with us. We always show them the way to set it up. That's why we always prefer automated, that is the API fetches that we do. So we always show them the way to set it up and we give them that. And even see some of the clients where we have the access for the MMPs, right? We have something called as an agency view, which mitigates that risk. So the MMPs have inbuilt views which mitigate the risks, and even for the analytical tools, wherein the view that you're providing is only it's to an extent where it is actually, or it is acceptable in terms of the privacy policies. So that is something which we do, and we are very careful with all of when we are dealing with data which is related to clients or our own data as well.
Got it. One last question, Karthik. What's the future?
The future is automation. Yes.
Right.
The future is automated campaigns, AI-based campaigns, but that doesn't mean our work as marketers is over. Our work as marketers is to adapt towards that automation, because we've gone over those days where we sit and browse through thousands and thousands of search terms.
Yeah.
Now is the day where we figure out what is that 10 or 20 terms which will let the system go get you those 1,000 relevant terms.
Right.
So that is where we need to pivot towards. We need to pivot towards a place where we are early adopters, also to be in a place where we set it up properly and ensure that it is delivering results to us in a proper way as well.
Got it. So systems are getting smarter. We need to be smarter than systems.
Obviously, yeah. If not, systems will take over.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Great. So thank you so much, Karthik, for this wonderful conversation. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Akshay, for having me. I had fun. Thank you.